Hello, everyone. My name is Chris St. Amand. I'm the leader of experiential learning at St. Clair Catholic District School Board, and I'm the author of the STEM Pathways event guide that is meant to be taking place outside the school day. Over the next few minutes, I just want to give a little background on this, provide some context about how it's structured, and go through some of the introductory, overarching, and appendices as well that you'll be kind of looking at it throughout this document. Over the next few minutes, there'll be a few pause points as well. So please feel free to do so at your leisure. I'll just say that if you are interested in making this interactive, just pause it here for a second and open up either the PDF or Google Doc version of this document to make sure that you can access the links promptly as we go through. So without further ado, we'll get into this. There are obviously a table of contents, which is pretty self-explanatory. So I will just go through to the introduction. This document and this whole kind of night, I guess, or the event, was written through the lens of both creating pathways to success as well as experiential learning. And you can see both those images there. These are both from the Creating Pathways to Success document, and this is from the co-op curriculum. Pulled the definition of experiential learning here. So hopefully you'll see both of those kind of reverberating throughout. Since this isn't meant to be done in the school day, there's not explicit curriculum connections, although there could be a number of ones you will probably find, no doubt. This is more about thinking experiential learning and career exploration and pathways exploration. At the end of the introduction on top of page 3, just like to read this one little section to you. The ideas presented in this document are just that, ideas. So while many come with instructions and are ready to go, others will need to be altered and or adapted to meet the needs of your students, your budget, your facilities, your geography, etc. Ultimately, your Pathways event will include as many or few stations and options per station as makes sense for your context. And no doubt you will probably drop some that won't make sense for where you are. You will add to some, tweak some, certainly improve them. I have no doubt about that. So please know this is not a one size fits all, but a menu of options that can be tailored as need be, just with maybe a little creativity or some team planning as well. Just a couple of overview pieces as well I'd like to highlight while I have you here. So again, here's all our stations. You can see station 2A and 2B are together because the build a car and crash science naturally go together. Each station as well, which I'll demonstrate in a few moments, is set up to mirror the golden circle from Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why. And each station begins the same way. Why this station in this event? How is this station being run? What are the instructions you need? What are the materials you need? Any provocations, things like that. And what is the takeaway? Why, what am I going to get? So what do I need to think about? And how can we get and pause people for that as well? A lot of stations have a choice board, which I'll show you in a moment, as well as a reflection passport, which is an Appendix G, which I'll highlight towards the end. And this Start With Why setup intentionally intersects with the participate, reflect, apply cycle of the experiential learning cycle as well. So it's a way of making this a little bit more experiential. There are a few planning notes and a couple of linked articles on running a successful family night or back to school night. Those don't exactly apply, but they've got great suggestions. Some resources where if you ran every single station, you would need some of these, as well as safety consideration. Appendices B through F have a number of Octi ones, as well as some of the safe docs that are linked right here as well, right from the appendices as well. So please be aware they're in 2 spots, but safety is always a priority. So I'm not going to go through every single station, but we'll highlight a few things. So station 1 is the Pathways panel, where you may bring in a number of different people from your community who work in the automotive industry. I'd just like to remind you of that golden circle. So why the station? So there's always a setup as to why are we doing this. And there's a link here to the OVIN Navigator, which is the Ontario Vehicle Integration Network. It's a pathways planning tool, which has a great wealth of information that is throughout this document, and I will highlight more in another section. But again, sorry, why is the station? How is the station run? And what is the takeaway? So why, how, what? Again, there are different reflection pieces here with links as well. This one happens to be a traffic signs reflection you may or may not want to use. Again, we go to station 2, build a car. You can see why the station, okay, how it's run with the number of pieces there, and then what is the takeaway? In this case, instead of a traffic sign reflection, there's a choice board of questions that can be used for a reflection passport, which I will demonstrate in Appendix G, as well as exit cards, or just stimulating some conversation with some people as well. So we'll continue to go through crash science, always considering safety. Coding, there's a number of options here for you as well, some plugged, some unplugged, some different ideas on how to do that as it connects to our self-driving cars. Obviously, a lot of coding is needed. Traffic simulation, which is an open source simulation, would suggest using the instructions and the setup here. As the simulator doesn't give terrifically clear instructions, this might help keep things a little bit more focused. But again, please play around with that before you start, as it is a little bit finicky. Very cool, but little finicky for sure. Here's our reflection again. Pathways exploration, I'll just take a moment at this station. This refers to both secondary and post-secondary. So beginning with post-secondary, that OVIN Navigator tool I mentioned has a wealth of information. It's not dissimilar to my blueprint or other pieces or other similar software that secondary schools would use in elementary from grade 7 to 12. This is specific for the automotive industry as well. And there are some screenshots here and some instructions on how to go through it. Would suggest, though, if you plan on running the station, you take some time and play around with the site, understand how it's set up, so you can do some guided career exploration and sort of know where to steer people. The other piece is secondary school programming, and it would be worthwhile to reach out to either your school board, your OYAP, SHISM, dual credit, experiential learning person or people, as well as those at your family of schools or your feeder school for a secondary, and understand what kind of co-op opportunities are there. Do they run an automotive SHSM, a dual credit? Oh yeah, all those pieces. What are your opportunities when you get into secondary and post-secondary is the point of this station. And again, you can see our piece there. The school bus of 2036, 13 years from now as I record this, because the provocation here is 5th Avenue, New York City, 13 years apart with a huge change, as well as the government of Canada put out their transportation 2030 strategy in the year 2017, both 13 years in the future. So feel free to change the year as suits you. It is kind of arbitrary, but it seemed to be a coincidental piece that I thought was a good moonshot in the future. Also school buses, because all students should have some familiarity with school buses, either taking the school, field trips, other ways. Some information that is worth looking at as well for considerations, and some options on how to design that school bus. Everything from words and drawing it by hand to creating it and using digital tools as well. 407 does put some math as well up. In this case, the math is their data set that they collect, both on kilometers traveled, both in chart and graph form, as well as the average workday trips. So you can do a lot with that in terms of provocation. What do you see? What's the connection there? And a suggested routine is see, think, wonder, which is linked here for making things visible. What do you see? What do you think? What do you wonder when you look at this data set? Machine learning is all about teaching the machine. Google has a great experiment that's linked here, as well as some Octi resources that look at this and sort of take it through an instructional set with some good teaching resources there. Even if you don't use it for this, it could be good for the classroom as well. And finally, station 9 is a final reflection coming back to our traffic signs reflection as an idea and some questions. And Appendix A below, and it's linked here, has that as well. So we get into our appendices. Appendix A is our traffic sign reflection with some live links. Appendix B, C, D, E, and F are all safety, which are linked on page 4 and also appear as an appendix down here. Our reflection passport, which I mentioned, which is an idea of a little booklet that people carry around. You can cut out and fold, and they can answer those questions or write down their thoughts as they go through. A way to keep that experiential learning, participate, reflect, apply piece kind of top of mind as they go through. So there is a link you can create to a fresh one in Google Docs. It'll prompt you to make a copy and you can tweak it as need be. It's a very generic version. And because of the way it's set up, there are videos linked here. 2 options, one from YouTube, one from Instructables, on how to actually cut and fold this. And there's a larger version here if you wish. And finally, the infographic Transportation 2030 that I mentioned earlier, that the Government Canada put out. There's a larger version here, which is an interesting read, as well as a link to the bigger version. And finally, at the bottom is references. Most are links. There are 1 or 2 books in here as well, but most of these are links that are taken directly from the document itself. So in a nutshell, that is the STEM Pathways event guide. I hope you found this informative and that you will consider running an event at your school or your facility in the near future. Thank you. Take good care.